So we are going to continue on with this PowerPoint, looking at expanding globalization. So, we talked about the history of globalization, so what different societies considered as wealth, and trade, how they conducted that. We looked at the Bretton Woods Agreement and how the world after World War II responded to, let's say poverty, and how they essentially tried to create more international trade. So we'll look at expanding globalization here. As the world moved forward, you start seeing more and more international agreements between countries. So the Bretton Woods Agreement played a significant role in expanding globalization during the 20th century, so particularly 1944 and beyond, that's when it was invented. But after that, different countries started to have their own agreements of how they would help support one another in terms of trade, industry, and whatnot. Okay, you have these agreements coming along in Europe and America. Europe saw progression of treaties which unified the country and industries into what we know as the EU. What do you kids know about the European Union? What is it? No way, it's crickets in here. You don't know what the European Union is?
Give me a hint.
The hint is in the name.
Oh, the European.
Okay.
A union of European countries for trade, or it just kind of unifies them all into they act as one.
How do you get that from my name?
Because it's a union.
Okay. So all of Europe, many countries in Europe act as one. So, well, what does that mean? Has anyone traveled to Europe?
No.
No one? Just myself. Where'd you go?
Germany.
Okay. Okay, so if you go into Europe, there's about 15 countries, I think, or so. You enter through one airport, you get access to all of these European countries. They call it the Schengen zone, something like that. I don't know exactly how it's pronounced. Okay, the European economy, for a variety of reasons, they kind of collectivize, they unionize. What is their currency?
Euros.
The euro, right?
That one.
Wonderful, right? So if you go to Greece, what do you think you buy stuff with?
Greece dollars.
Euros.
Euros. If you go to Germany, euros. If you go to Spain, euros, right? So all of these.
Like, you go to Russia.
Go ahead.
It's not kind of like the States, because when I went to the Bahamas, you'd still pay the American money, and they accepted it. Even though they had their own money.
So we'll talk about kind of North and Central America soon, okay? So Europe, after World War II, they had a variety of treaties. I think I have that later on in my slides, but they decide to unionize, collectivize, and they have one currency. Part of the reason was because some of their countries, their currency was starting to become worthless, they were going broke. Another reason, as mentioned back there, was that they started trading amongst one another. So all these different European countries have their own valuable resources that they can export, sell to one another, and trade with, and they strengthen their entire economy. Okay? In North America, we had NAFTA, so the North American Free Trade Agreement, which was implemented in 1994 and was recently renegotiated. It's called something else now. It's an agreement between Canada, USA, and Mexico. They're trying to, it was made in the spirit of trade liberalization. Do we know what liberty means?
That's like.
What does liberty mean? Back there? Freedom, right? So to liberalize something would mean to free it up, right? So rather than having tariffs, taxes, and saying like, hey, we don't want to trade with you if you buy from Canada, let's say dairy or steel, we're going to tax anything you buy from those countries. They've tried freeing it up and said, okay, like buy from these people, maybe you get a better rate, but then they have to buy some of our stuff and you trade back and forth. So you open up the trade, okay? This is an agreement. Some of the things to emphasize was free trade, increasing access to the market, increasing investment, improving labor and environmental standards, and increasing competitiveness amongst companies. And so, NAFTA is essentially designed to just say, hey, Canada, America, and Mexico have a lot of things to offer, have a lot of unique things to offer to one another. So how do we benefit ourselves as much as we possibly can, and then use that to potentially benefit the world as well, okay? And so to your question, part of the reason why a lot of countries in South America and Central America use the US dollar would be because the US dollar is a little bit more stable and it's a little bit more valuable as well, right? So if you're on a resort, you said you went to the Bahamas, right? So in the Bahamas, you use all US dollars, right? And for the people there, that currency is worth more as well to them, right? This is not necessarily in your curriculum because your curriculum is a little bit older than you are. The USMCA was the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, which was ratified in 2020, I believe. Served as a modernization of NAFTA, and you can take a look at some of the differences there. I think the last 2 points are big ones here. So strengthening intellectual property rights. So in 1994, way before the internet was as big as it is now, people like, do you know what intellectual rights are? Any idea?
Give me a hint.
It's in the name. What is intellect?
Smart people.
Intelligence.
Intelligence, right?
No things.
Smart. It's also ideas, right? So let's say you come up with an idea and someone sees it on the internet and they take it from you,
Oh.
right? So they started adding intellectual property rights. So if you come up with the idea for something, you can patent that, and that gives you ownership and possession. And so anytime someone uses that idea,
It's a trademark, isn't
perhaps it could be associated with that. You know, you should receive some money for that, right? It's your intellectual property, right? You came up with this. Also adding in some laws and rules and regulations around electronic trades, okay? Because in 1994, people weren't really buying and selling things online, whereas now, most of your purchases could be done online, right? And definitely using, you know, e-commerce, so potentially credit cards and whatnot. Rule of origin laws, also providing preferential treatment for certain products, so promoting North American inputs. So the new negotiation is to some extent trying to, I'm by no means an expert on this, but trying to, and part of this could be from COVID. What we discovered in COVID was, hey, all of your factories, all your production is done outside of your own country. What happens in a situation like COVID when the borders are shut down and people aren't working? International trade drops. So the same places where you're getting your resources from, you can no longer get that, and that impacts your economy, impacts your supply as well, whatever products. How many of you during COVID saw empty store shelves?
it?
Right. What was typically empty? Toilet paper. Other than that, right? Sometimes meat is really low. What else?
I saw like the things that 24 water, like the water bottle.
Okay. Water, right? Did anyone see? Okay. So some products that we get from, you know, other places like sugar. You can't grow sugar cane in Canada, right? So that processed sugar, you get it from different parts of the world. Did anyone see like empty produce sections?
Yeah.
Right, or less produce? You kids know what produce is? Do you want a hint?
Vegetable.
Oh, vegetables and fruits and stuff.
There you go, right? Intuition, you just knew what it was, okay? So yeah, trying to promote more North American inputs. Additionally, they also have something they added in called the sunset clause, which means that every 16 years they need to renew this agreement, right? Which I'm not sure why in 1994 they simply thought that, hey, we'll just have this agreement forever. But the new agreement now has it built into the system that every 16 years you have to renegotiate, because, you know, the world changes pretty rapidly now with the internet, with new technology. I added this in as well, so just some other international agreements here. It's probably useful to be aware of other parts of the world, not just Canada and North America, but In other parts of the world, they have international agreements amongst countries. So there's the ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Again, political and economic cooperation amongst these countries, which, you know, during World War II and afterwards had a lot of violent encounters with one another, or parts of Asia, maybe not necessarily Southeast Asia specifically. There's also the EEC and European Union, so European Economic Community and European Union. It formed from the Treaty of Rome in 1957, which created a single market and customs union to promote free movement of goods, services, capital, and people. So that's the European Union. You guys know about Brexit? The way it's crickets again. What do you kids know about? TikTok? YouTube? You should know about YouTube. Mystical Watches. Go subscribe. You're not subscribed. I already know it. Why'd you laugh when I said that? Well, subscribe. We're at 277 subscribers. So close to 300.
We're doing a real life ad right now.
I'm doing advertisement. I'm plugging myself in my own content, of course. Hey, what's up over there? No, but give me a hint first.
Yeah.
What's up?
That was
one question. Can I get a hint?
Oh, Brexit. What do you think the BR stands for? It's a European country.
Oh.
British.
Brazil.
Britain. Not Brazil, man. Europe. Okay? What's the second half of that word? Brexit. Exit. What do you think they exited?
Everything. Your own country.
What did they exit?
Britain.
A European country exited. What do you think they exited?